My dear brothers and sisters, not what you give for the sake of Allah is unlike anything in this world. When the heart hesitates, fearing loss, it is natural to think that holding on is safer. But Allah reminds us in the Quran that spending in His cause does not decree end, that spending in His cause does not decrease wealth. It increases it in ways unseen. Every act of giving, whether it is zakat, sadaqah, or a small gesture of kindness, carries a weight beyond what the eyes can measure. When you hand over even a portion of what you have to someone in need, you are not losing, you are planting seeds in the garden of Allah's mercy. Your wealth is purified. Your soul is uplifted. Your soul is uplifted. And you are investing in a return far greater than what the world can ever offer. This is the promise of Allah, a guarantee that transcends doubt, fear, and worldly calculations. Giving for Allah transforms the very nature of your heart. When the intention is purely for Him, it elevates an ordinary act into an extraordinary connection with the Creator. The Prophet that brings blessings into our lives. When you give sincerely, you are aligning your heart with Allah's love and mercy. Even if the world seems harsh and selfish, your generosity becomes a shield for your own soul, a reminder that Allah sees, knows, and rewards. It is not only the recipient who benefits. Your heart is renewed. Your heart is renewed. Your mind is at peace. And your spirit feels lighter. The act of giving removes attachment to material things and reminds us that true wealth is measured by faith, obedience, and trust in Allah's plan rather than by the possessions we hold. But sometimes we give and see nothing in return immediately, and this is where patience becomes a form of worship. Allah tests the sincerity of our hearts, measuring trust rather than immediate gratification. When you release something from your hands for His sake, you declare your reliance on Him, saying silently, Ya Allah, I put my trust in You, not in this wealth. It is in these moments that the unseen miracles begin to unfold. Barakah enters what remains. Dorakah enters what remains. Doors open that you never imagined. And relief comes in ways beyond calculation. The world may count your loss, but Allah counts your obedience. Your act of giving is recorded, preserved, and multiplied, and the reward is far beyond what you could measure. Your generosity becomes a shield, a light, and a testament to your faith, and a light and a testament to your faith. Giving also teaches humility and reminds us of our dependence on Allah. It humbles the soul to recognize that wealth is a trust, not a possession, and that every blessing comes from Allah alone. When you share with others, it softens the heart and breaks the chains of selfishness and greed. Your generosity becomes a reflection of Allah's mercy in a world filled with struggle. People may forget your kindness, they may never repay you, but Allah never forgets. Every act of giving, no matter how small, becomes a bridge between your heart and the divine. This humility not only purifies your wealth, but strengthens your relationship with Allah, reminding you that your provision is a means to serve, not a means to boast or cling to. Finally, giving for Allah cultivates hope, faith, and optimism. It teaches that the world is not the ultimate measure of success or security. Wealth, status, and comfort may fluctuate, but the reward of sincere charity is eternal. When your hands release something for the sake of Allah, your heart learns to detach from worldly anxieties and focus on the eternal. You start to see life differently. Challenges become tests, losses become opportunities for growth. And giving becomes a source of joy rather than fear. The act of giving invites Allah's protection, His mercy, and His endless blessings, creating a cycle where generosity begets generosity and faith strengthens through obedience, trust, and hope in the one who never forgets His servants. Charity is a powerful force, one that transforms more than just material circumstances. When you give, you are not merely offering wealth, food, or resources. You are reaching into the heart of another human being and offering comfort, hope, and dignity. The Prophet the time done sin taught us that a kind act done sincerely for Allah's pleasure is a form of worship, and charity holds a unique place among these acts because it touches lives directly. Every coin, every meal, every gesture becomes a means of healing the soul, easing burdens and reminding others that they are not forgotten. In giving, you are participating in Allah's mercy, becoming the instrument through which His blessings flow. The joy and relief you bring to others do not vanish. They echo in hearts. They echo in hearts, strengthen communities, and create a ripple effect of goodness that extends far beyond what the eyes can see. When a person receives charity, it is not just their immediate need that is fulfilled. Their heart experiences a renewal, a reassurance that Allah has not abandoned them. The kindness of a stranger or the sincerity of a fellow believer becomes a visible sign of Allah's presence in the world. Your act of giving communicates a powerful message that someone cares, that they are valued, that their difficulties are shared in spirit, if not in magnitude. This is why giving is as much a spiritual act for the giver as it is for the receiver. Your hand extends not just material aid, but spiritual solace. By participating in the easing of another's struggle, your heart learns empathy, humility, and gratitude, forming a bond that transcends wealth and status and touches the core of your own soul. Charity also teaches patience and gratitude, both for the giver and the receiver. The giver learns to detach from attachment to material wealth and to recognize that everything ultimately belongs to Allah. Giving becomes an act of trust, a demonstration of reliance on Him, and then exercise in sincerity. For the receiver, charity is a reminder that relief comes not only through personal effort, but also through the mercy of Allah manifesting through others. The Prophet Savage emphasized that even a small act done sincerely carries immense weight, and that those who give are protected from calamities and rewarded abundantly. By giving, they participate in a cycle where Allah's mercy is shared and multiplied, hearts are healed, and communities grow stronger. The act of charity cultivates patience and trust, reinforcing the believer's connection with Allah through both giving and receiving. Sincerity in giving is essential, for Allah looks at the heart more than the outward act. Charity that seeks recognition or praise loses much of its spiritual power, but charity given purely for Allah's pleasure becomes a source of immense blessing. When you give with sincerity, your heart is filled with peace and contentment, knowing that you are fulfilling an obligation and earning the pleasure of your Lord. This spiritual nourishment strengthens faith, fosters humility and softens the soul, while also leaving a tangible impact on the lives of others. The act of giving becomes a mirror for your own heart, revealing your priorities, your compassion, and your trust in Allah. In this way, charity is as much a tool for personal spiritual growth as it is a means of alleviating the struggles of those in need. Finally, charity is a bright, between hearts, a link that connects humans in mutual compassion and the guidance of Allah. It reminds us that wealth is a trust, not merely a possession, and that sharing is a pathway to inner peace and divine favor. When you extend help to another, your hands may empty, but your heart fills with joy, satisfaction, and gratitude. The act strengthens communities, cultivates empathy, and inspires others to follow in the footsteps of generosity. Every act of charity becomes a testament to Allah's mercy, a visible manifestation of faith in action, and a silent prayer answered. In giving, both giver and receiver are spiritually enriched, hearts are healed, and faith is strengthened through the transformative power of sincere, selfless, and humble charity. Giving even when you have little is one of the most profound expressions of faith and trust in Allah. Many of us wait for abundance, thinking that only wealth can be given, forgetting that Allah measures sincerity, not quantity. The Prophet ﷺ reminded us that even a small act done purely for Allah holds immense reward, When you give from what you have, even if it seems insufficient, you are declaring your reliance on Allah and acknowledging that your provision is a trust, not merely a possession. This act of giving becomes a test of faith, a moment when the heart says, Ya Allah, I trust you more than what I hold in my hands. It is in these moments when fear of loss is confronted by the courage to give that true trust and reliance on Allah are forged, and the soul is elevated above worldly concerns. When you give during hardship, it is an act of both courage and submission. Life does not always provide ease, yet the believer chooses to act in obedience and trust, knowing that Allah is the ultimate provider. A handful of dates, a small coin, or even a kind word can become a source of immense reward when offered sincerely. Giving under difficulty is an acknowledgement that wealth is temporary, that wealth possessions are fleeting, and that Allah's mercy and generosity are limitless. The Prophet ﷺ praised those who give in times of scarcity, for they exemplify the highest form of faith. Their hearts are free from attachment to material possessions, and their trust in Allah's provision becomes tangible. In giving, why are you punishing me? In giving while having little, the believer demonstrates that faith is not measured by comfort, but by reliance, courage, and obedience to the Creator. True trust is reflected in action, not mere intention. It is easy to speak of generosity when the purse is full, but the one who gives despite need shows a heart firmly rooted in Allah. This giving becomes a spiritual dialogue between the servant and the Lord, a silent conversation that declares, I depend on you, Ya Allah, more than I depend on my wealth. Such acts purify the soul, softening the grip of fear and selfishness. The believer learns detachment from the worldly, focusing instead on eternal returns. Even small contributions, when given with sincerity, carry immense weight in the sight of Allah. These acts cultivate humility, patience, and awareness that wealth is a trust, not a right, and that true security is found in reliance on Allah, not in what is held in one's hands. Giving when you have little also inspires gratitude, perspective. When the heart shares despite scarcity, it becomes aware of the countless blessings already present. The act of giving reminds us that Allah provides in ways seen and unseen, and that even in apparent lack, there is abundance of mercy and opportunity to serve. It encourages the believer to value each small possession, to be conscious of needs and blessings, and to act with intentional generosity. By choosing to give, one breaks the chains of fear and selfishness, replacing them with hope, trust, and love for Allah and His creation. The prophets of Damar for Allah and His creation. The prophets of Damara taught that even a smile is charity, showing that generosity is measured by intention, not scale. This perspective transforms scarcity into opportunity, making every act of giving a spiritual victory and the testament of true reliance on Allah. Finally, giving even from little strengthens community faith and personal spiritual growth. Acts of giving, however small, create bonds between heart, alleviate hardship, and spread mercy in a world that desperately needs it. The one who gives in times of difficulty becomes a role model of trust, humility, and sincerity, demonstrating that faith is lived through action, not words alone. Not words alone. Each act of generosity becomes a seed planted in the garden of Allah's mercy, one that will flourish in ways unseen and unexpected. The believer learns that security is not in wealth retained, but in the heart aligned with Allah's will, and that true wealth is measured by obedience, trust, and the capacity to give even when resources seem insufficient. And this trust in Allah is not theoretical. It becomes tangible, lived, and transformative, and transformative for both giver and receiver. Zakat is not merely a financial obligation. It is a profound act of purification for both wealth and soul. Allah has entrusted us with provisions, and by giving zakat, we acknowledge that everything we possess ultimately belongs to Him. Belongs to Him. When we release a portion of our wealth to those in need, we cleanse our hearts from greed, selfishness, and attachment to the material world. The Qur'an repeatedly emphasizes that zakat purifies not just possessions, but the believer's inner self, reminding us that wealth becomes a source of barakah when shared sincerely. It instills discipline, empathy, and humility, teaching the believer that obedience to Allah is more important than accumulation of worldly goods. By fulfilling this obligation, we align our hearts with divine guidance, nurturing a soul that recognizes that true prosperity is measured in faith, generosity, and trust in Allah rather than by mere numbers in a bank account. The payata mi, sadaqah, The voluntary charity serves as a shield and a source of protection in ways the eyes cannot see. The Prophet Sadaqah removes calamities, cures hardships, and brings tranquility to the heart of the giver, thoughts of the giver. Every act of kindness, whether a coin given, food shared, or even a kind word offered, has the power to ward off harm and attract Allah's mercy. Sadaqah is not limited to wealth. It extends to our time, our effort, and our interactions. When given sincerely, it becomes a spiritual armor protecting both the soul and the body from trials, misfortune, and spiritual ailments. In a world full of uncertainties, Sadaqah reminds the believer that reliance on Allah is the ultimate protection and that generosity invites divine care and blessing. It nurtures compassion and strengthens the bond between humans while elevating the giver spiritually. Tawakkul or reliance on Allah is the culmination of giving and charity, linking obedience, humility, and faith. When we give zakat or sadaqah, especially from what we value most, we exercise trust in Allah's wisdom and provision. True tawakkul is not passive. It is active surrender, acknowledging that Allah is the best planner and provider. By giving, we declare that our hearts are aligned with Him and that material possessions are tools for service, not sources of false service, not sources of false security. This reliance elevates the believer, teaching patience in trials and gratitude in ease. The one who trusts Allah while giving develops a profound sense of inner peace, knowing that every act of generosity is recorded, rewarded, and returned in ways beyond human calculation. Tawakkul transforms giving from a duty into an intimate act of worship where faith, obedience, and hope converge. The combination of zakat, sadaqah, and taka shapes the believer's character, guiding them towards spiritual maturity. Zakat disciplines and purifies. Sadaqah disciplines and purifies. Sadaqah shields and softens. And tawakkul elevates and strengthens trust in Allah. Together, they create a holistic approach to wealth, life, and faith. When practiced sincerely, they cultivate empathy for the needy, detachment from materialism, and awareness of Allah's mercy. A heart engaged in these acts becomes resilient, humble, and spiritually alert, able to navigate life's trials with patience and hope. The believer learns that giving is not a loss, that generosity is a source of spiritual abundance, and that reliance on Allah is the foundation of true security. These principles transform the mundane act of spending into a profound journey of faith, obedience, and intimate connection with the Creator. Finally, embracing zakat, sadaqah, and tawakkul leads to a life of balance, contentment, and spiritual elevation. The wealth we release purifies our soul. The voluntary charity protects our hearts, and the trust in Allah lifts us above fear and anxiety. Every act of giving becomes a bridge between the human and the divine, a way to draw closer to Allah while serving His creation. You punishing me, our lives become a testament to sincerity, humility, and reliance, reflecting the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ in daily practice. Through these practices, the believer learns to measure success not by accumulation but by generosity, not by comfort but by reliance, and not by worldly security but by spiritual trust. This harmonious integration of obedience, compassion, and faith cultivates a heart that is rich in iman, overflowing with mercy, and anchored in Allah's guidance.